Okay, hello everyone. Let me share a screen. Okay, dear Lord, you are our wonderful creator, the God who is always with us, always protecting us and always pushing us to be who you created us to be. Protect us in this podcast today and anyone who is listening in the future from spirits who wish to divide, bring negativity, or crush the Holy Spirit that lives within us all. Please speak to us today to bring the message you need others to hear. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, we've been talking about human trafficking in the 21st century. So this is just another piece of it. So we're putting pieces together for the Insights 21 podcast, insights21.com. And the company name is Dr. Michael J. Frederick LLC. And the email is mjfinsights21@gmail.com. So we are looking at human trafficking. This is the fourth podcast. So I just started really I've been studying this topic for about 10 years, but I really just started my website and podcast this year. So this is the fourth podcast. I'm going to try to get 12 because my original goal was to get one a month. So if I can get 12 by, the end of December, we can reach that goal. And then I'd like to do one podcast a week to, between one podcast a week and one podcast a month. Okay, but really, as I was saying in previous podcasts, I really first got introduced to this topic by Cathy O'Brien and reading her book, Transformation of America, the true life story of a mind controlled slave. Also, access denied for reasons of national security, the documented journey from CIA mind controlled slave to US government whistleblower, 2004 by Cathy O'Brien. So her first book came out in 1995. Then she did PTSD Time to Heal, a book on healing in 2016. And then she has a DVD that I'd recommend. Really, if you don't know anything about this, start there, watch that. It's called 2022, the Cathy O'Brien story, and you can find it at www.trance.movie. So it's a documentary film that kind of focuses on her programming, her mind control, and cooperating with the CIA. I also mentioned another good book, Behold the Pale Horse, 1991 by William Cooper. That's another book that woke me up, and it's related. Also, we talked about Fiona Barnett. So I'm trying to post her. I found the Candy Girl documentary 1 and 2, and it's about SRA in Australia. And I'm trying to post it on my website under the research page, so it may be there along with her Eyes Wide Open Lockdown Edition. I have that on my computer. And then, but her website, I think you can find it at her website. It's FionaBarnett.org. Her last name is Barnett. And then the other one is pedophilesdownunder.com. Okay, so you can find her books there. Okay, and we talked about the different aspects. Like that book is really good. It's kind of like an encyclopedia on the topic. So it talks about the Luciferian cover up, the Luciferian philosophy, my witness testimony, and then how to heal. Okay, and then today we're going to focus on David Nino Rodriguez. And really, he's a big part of my awakening as well, like more recently, I'd say. But he was born September 18th, 1977. He was a former heavyweight champion boxer. He was 36-0 with 34 knockouts. And then I think he got injured and hurt, and his record was 37-2. He did go to high schools and talk about bullying. So that would be, if I could interview him, I would interview him on bullying and, how he learned about human trafficking and how he started his podcast and wrote his book and stuff like that. So maybe that'll happen someday. So I'm going to put that out there. But he's an author, a podcaster. He had a near death experience, I believe, 2 times. I think he he flatlined. I think he got stabbed one time, and I forgot what the other one was. But the good news is he's been sober for 5 years, so he's really in that way a role model. I mean, he was a professional boxer. He was bullied as a kid, but he became a professional boxer, and then he had a lot of success, and then it seems like God steered him in a different direction. So maybe when he was at the very top, before he lost, he was on top of the world, and God maybe humbled him, and kind of he kind of changed his life. So he went from living a fast life to living I guess a more slow, wise life. But it's very admirable to be sober for 5 years, and then he's done many podcasts, and he talks about human trafficking a lot. So I'm going to start with one of those videos and kind of go from there. But he wrote a book called When the Lights Go Out, From Survivor to Champion, 2016. He said he wrote it on his phone, so he must have had sore thumbs or whatever. But he's got a website called ninoscorner.tv. And then I think Rumble and Spotify. He's on a bunch of channels, but Nino's Corner. On X, it's Nino Boxer. YouTube, David Nino Rodriguez, and then he's from El Paso. Okay, so one time I went to El Paso when I was living in Hobbs, New Mexico, just because I wanted to check out the city he lived in because he talks about it a lot, and like he talks about Chico's Tacos and then this real good cafeteria that's there. And I went to that cafeteria when I was in Houston. I just forgot the name of it, but it was good. So thanks for that tip. But he on this video I want to go over 3 of his videos. The original Peterwood video, and that was November 6, 2020. And it was only 11 minutes long, but I was living in New Mexico at that time, or maybe Iowa, right before I moved to New Mexico, and I saw that video, okay, the day he did it. So that's really when I became interested in him, and then I started following him and listening to his podcasts and stuff. But he does, right now, he does 3 free podcasts on YouTube, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, and then he does a bunch of videos on his other channel. So let me go back to that real quick. ninoscorner.tv. So there's a lot of good videos on that. But this is I think this is one of the best videos he's done, or recordings he's done, is the Cathy O'Brien and Lynne Haggerman video that he did recently a few weeks ago. It was November 21st, I believe, and it's 50 minutes long, but it's on surviving sexual satanic ritual abuse. And I think he posted on 11/27. But both Cathy O'Brien and Lynne Haggerman joined the corner to discuss their experiences of being trafficked and sexually abused in ritual occult practices as children. Their earliest memories are before the ages of 5 years old. Both have survived inhumane atrocities that no human should ever experience in their lifetime. Here in this podcast, they both share their stories of survival and healing. Okay, so I think it's a great video because, like Cathy O'Brien is the person, like I said, the first person that I knew that talked about these topics related to trafficking. And then Lynne Haggerman is come out recently. She talks about her abuse. I think it was from birth to age 5. Her mom was in a pedophile cult and kind of pimped her out. With Cathy O'Brien, her dad pimped her out. But Lynne Haggerman talks about a lot of her training, like mind control training and abuse, happened underneath universities, hospitals. And I'd really like to know which one, when she's ready to say that or write her book. But it'd be really interesting to know. But she, if it's under one university hospital, how many have tunnels underneath them? How many churches and cathedrals have tunnels underneath them? Because I've heard Jessie Saboter talk about she had mind control training under the Cathedral in Rockford, Illinois, and I've driven by there. I know where that is. I've seen that place, that building. Okay, so both have survived inhumane atrocities, and no human should ever experience this in their life. Here's the podcast that share both their stories of survival and healing. And then Ryan Matta is another, I'd say, hero for human trafficking because he's done three documentaries on this topic so far that I think are really good. I've watched all of them and listened to all of them. So one of them's free. So I'm going to do a podcast on Ryan Matta, and I think I can play that on there because it's free. I don't think it's copyrighted or whatever. I'm not making money off it, but government. It's on government funded trafficking exposed. You decide. So that interview was in October as well, October 10, 23, 24. I think it played on October 18th. It's about 50 minutes long. Who is it that runs the biggest child trafficking operation in the world? According to Ryan Matta, it's the United States government. He states the government is using your hard-earned tax dollars to fund it all. The cartels, Border Patrol, NGOs, churches, and CPS are all either wittingly or unwittingly involved. Of course, there are obviously some good people that are trapped in a bad system, but here on this podcast, Ryan connects all the dots to the entire alleged scheme of this nefarious operation. If this is true, then these are some people in very high places that need to answer to we, the people, you decide. Okay, so the three documentaries are What is Treason? Hashtag Trafficked. What is Treason? Hashtag Invasion. And then Operation Amber Alert was the third one. And then there's a book that goes with it. He interviews J.J. Carroll in there, and he has a book called Invaded, and I just read this recently. The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System, 2022, okay, by J.J. Carroll. Okay, so check that book out. And then let me see. We talked about that. Let me see. There was a couple other things I wanted to look at, and then we'll get into that. Let me see. Okay, so premeditated ignorance is a quality or condition of deliberate unawareness. It's when people do not know because they do not want to know. For if they did know, they would have to take responsibility for the knowledge, and they would thereby be required to negotiate their identity and to relinquish the status, privilege, and authority that are derived from the false order of knowledge. At the very least, they'd be compelled to leave their comfort zone. So, one quote I like from a song is always stay humble and kind. Okay, so that's a good song. We talked about the top 10 human trafficking movies of all times, like Taken, The Whistleblower, Sold, The Jam, Eden, and Spartan. Also, some other ones more recently, Sound of Freedom with Jim Caviezel, the Tim Ballard story, came out last summer. Devil in Ohio, September 2022, was a Netflix series on Satanism in the Midwest. Girl in Room 13, 2022, filmed by Anne Heche, that was on Lifetime. A Child's Voice, 2018, by John Paul Rice. You can watch that on Vimeo. But he's a big advocate for, against child abuse and saving the children. Priceless, 2017, by Joss Smallbone. That's a good movie. And actually, when I did my training at Ambassadors United in Houston for trafficking, anti-human trafficking, they gave me that movie, so that was really good. So thank you for that. And Border Town 2006, Jennifer Lopez and Antonio Banderas and Martin Sheen. That was a movie about labor trafficking. Okay, and then just to summarize some of the best documentaries or series, I think that 50 Voices of Ritual Abuse is really good. I probably could do a video just on that because, like if someone doesn't believe in ritual abuse, just give them that. There's 50 people that experienced it, real life experience. So that's 50voices.org. And there's some names you'll know in there and some that you won't know. I'm trying to think who was in there offhand. I think I knew maybe about 10 of them, maybe more, but I'll break that down in the future. Cages was a 2023 documentary. It's on Rumble by Lewis Herms. The Greatest Show on Earth, Part 1 and Part 2 by Nick Alvear. Nick Alvear, I think Alvear. And then Kelly Galindo did a couple. She did 26 Seconds in 2019, and then ISIS Sex Slaves 2023. She did a couple of documentaries. I mentioned the book My Life Now by Mary Knight. That's 2022, and it's essays by a child sex trafficking survivor. Okay, so I think if you watch her video and then read her book, I think that's good. But her video is Am I Crazy? My Journey to Determine If My Memories Are True. See, I think I watched that on YouTube, but you can find that and watch that. It's good. I think in learning, I think it's good to watch a movie and then read a book, or watch a documentary and then read a book, or you can do it vice versa. But I think, the documentaries tend to be shorter and take less time. So that's why I kind of recommend starting with that. Like if you're going to study Cathy O'Brien, watch her video first and then read her books. But you can certainly read her books and then watch the video, however you want to do it. But whatever works for you. But Am I Crazy was a documentary by SRA survivor Mary Knight. So I've seen interviews with her that are good. My Life Now. Okay, there's a book, Essays by a Child Sex Trafficking Survivor. These Little Ones by Stu Peters. I saw the first documentary August 1st, 2022. And I think he did a part 2, but I haven't found that yet. So I'm gonna keep looking for that, and I may do a video on those too, because I think those are very good for raising awareness. Sean Stone did a couple good documentaries on the topic Best Kept Secret 2021, and then 1,000 Pieces 2020. And I told you I showed that in class, but that's 1,000pieces.com. And then Sean Stone's website, he's the son of Oliver Stone. It's seanstone.info. So SEAN and then Stone, STONE.info. And then Pervy World 1 through 12. That was really good. Series by Nick Alvear, 2021. Red Pill Media and Good Line Films. Okay, and that's the sequel to The Fall of the Cabal. All right, and then we talked about Fiona Barnett, the Candy Girl, 2015 documentary about SRA in Australia, and her book Eyes Wide Open 2020, the lockdown edition. So FionaBarnett.org or pedophilesdownunder.org. Fall of the Cabal was a good one with that was a documentary by Janet Ossenbard. Mark Dutroux, the Beast from Belgium, 2017. Who Took Johnny, 2014. Conspiracy of Silence, 1993. That was about the Franklin scandal. 60 Minutes Australia, Satan's Children, 1989. All right, and then, I just wanted to kind of circle back to some of the top recent documentaries on human trafficking are Next Level Productions, Ryan Matta, government-funded human trafficking, What is Treason? That was released on September 13th. What is Treason? #trafficked. What is Treason? #invasion was October 24th, 2024. And then Operation Amber Alert was about a week or two ago, 11/25/20 24. So I'm going to go over that in my next video. But every day, 250 children are lost to child sex trafficking, organ harvesting, adrenochrome making, satanic ritual sacrifice. Let's see. I think his ex there he has a page on Rumble. I think it's LFATV on Rumble, and then on X it's at Ryan Matta Media, and then on the web it's www.thisistreason.com. And then he does have a promo code on there, Nino 30 or Nino 15. His email is ryanmatamedia@gmail.com. And then we talked about Invaded 2023 by J.J. Carroll. Okay, so um, the U.S. government is the largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. What are you going to do about it? Okay, so ARC is um, the association. Recovery Children started in 1993 with a 100% success rate. Where were you when I was being trafficked? When bad things happen to bad people, then justice prevails. So the death penalty, some people are for the death penalty for child rape, torture, murder, child sex trafficking, child rape, child abuse. So I will say this, I do like the quote that says, anyone who hurts children does the devil's work. So I think that's true. And if they don't get the death penalty for hurting a child, they should at least get life in prison. It should be very extreme. Okay, and then next level productions. So that's Ryan Matta and J.J. Carroll. All right, and I kind of went over that. Let me just summarize though with Operation Amber Alert, which I'll do next time. We are God's army and we are coming to save you. It's a human trafficking documentary released on 11/25/24. Every day, 250 children are lost to all those things. So it's trafficking, child sex trafficking. It's also organ harvesting, adrenochrome manufacturing, satanic ritual sacrifice. So a lot of these kids are have very short lives, and it's very traumatic, and it's very evil. So I think it's key to be aware of such things. Okay, so I'll just end with this. Individuals who escape abuse and torture deserve the utmost respect and support. These people have risked it all to heal and stand up for truth. These people are heroes and angels who hold a horrific reality for everyone else. They suffered and escaped, and for that we should bow our heads in reverence and listen to their stories. Okay, make no mistake, survivors are not weak or vulnerable. No, not that. What survivors actually are the most incredible, brilliant, and powerful humans walking the planet. They are the freaking warriors. They survived every attempt that possibly could be made on a person to break and destroy them over a lifetime. They lived 100 lives while the rest of us live one. Survivors are real life superheroes. They are the ones who've been anointed to save and change the world. They are the ones we've been waiting for. Mark my words. Okay, so I think that's really good. So rather than love, than money, than faith, than fame, than fairness, give me truth. That's from Thoreau. So I think, the people that went through that and lived to tell the story and then told their story and even written books and done podcasts, like Lisa Weister, for example, or Gabby Chong, those people are heroes. And I think that like people like David Nino Rodriguez and Ryan Matta are also, because they're doing the same thing. Okay, so let me stop share and let me pause for a minute. Let me share screen again. And this is David Nino Rodriguez's first video that went viral. Okay, so I'm gonna let his trailer play. I forgot that was in the beginning. Okay, so sorry about that, but he has that for his videos. Okay, so he's just out on his back porch drinking a cup of coffee and he's waiting for people to come online. So he didn't mean for this video to go farther than his friends probably.
I gotta get more than one person on here, man. I can't be talking to myself. What's up, Hector? What's going on, buddy? Hilda Medrano. What's up, Hilda? I've got some good information today, man. I hope more people jump on here. There's only 12, 13. Rebecca Martinez, Mario, what's up? How's everybody doing during this quarantine? It's a pretty crazy time. What's up, Ash, Justine, Jack, what's up, Jack? I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. Melissa, all of you, man. I appreciate you tuning in. As you all know, I've been involved in boxing, being a pro athlete for a long time, and I've made some connections. I've made some powerful connections. With fighters, UFC fighters, professional boxers. I've been in that arena where I rub shoulders with some big names. I've been around Tony Robbins. I've been around, um, you know, I've gone out with like Oprah. I've gone out with a lot of big people and had been able to meet a lot of big people and talk to them like I'm talking to you all. And I just want to say one thing, and I know a lot of you are doubting this, but this is the truth, man. There is a big sting operation going down. It's happening, and I'm telling you, man, these pedophile rings are getting taken down. It's Hollywood ain't cool anymore. Hollywood's going down, and I still talk to my sources and I still talk to people that are involved. And listen, there is a big operation going down, and they're getting taken out. And every day is confirmation to me when it's a secretive thing, but I think it's going to come out. They say it's going to come out on the media when it's all said and done. And I think what's going to happen is going to really shock a lot of you. I mean, a lot of you are going to kind of brush off and be like, well, I always knew it was there, but I don't think you understand how prevalent these pedophile rings really are in Hollywood and in the sports arenas, in Hollywood, in the political arena. I mean, everywhere, man. It's bad, and it's human trafficking, and sex trafficking is the hottest thing, that biggest commodity right now. And I think once this all comes out to the surface, a lot of you are going to be disgusted and feel very dirty for even knowing the information. Um, I got to tell you, a lot of you don't like Trump, but he's doing the right thing right now. This guy is spearheading this whole thing, and it's an amazing thing to watch. They're going after the cartels for the human trafficking. They're going after the child pedophilia rings. Look, all these roads lead to Clinton Foundation in Haiti. They lead to. I'm trying not to give away too much information, but Jeffrey Epstein. We all know he didn't kill himself. Uh, Harvey Weinstein is dropping massive amounts of information. Um, there's a lot going on right now, and it's going to come to the surface, and you all are going to see this, and you all are going to witness something happen that's just absolutely amazing. And we need to protect our children, man. There's, Corey Haim's coming out with documentaries. All these people are wanting to leak information, but it's all going to come out at the right time. And like I said, Hollywood's going down. It's fucking going down. It's sinking like the Titanic, and they're all trying to bail themselves out, and they're all trying to jump ship. And some of the biggest celebrities that were involved in this shit. And I'm not going to reveal any names, but I have friends that are. I'm going to just say it. I'm not bragging, nothing like that. But I have friends that are A-list celebrities that are good people, and they've dropped some names in me that I'm like, whoa. I cannot imagine that. I can't. I mean, you understand that there are children sacrifices where people actually drink adrenochrome, where they terrify the child so much. And this is hard to swallow. This is hard to even grasp, but it's an actual ancient ritual to terrify mainly children because they're more pure. Their adrenal glands are more pure. Terrify them to the point where they cannot where they're so scared and they're pumping out so much adrenaline and they're so terrified, and then you finally kill them and you drink their blood, and it's like the ultimate aphrodisiac. It's like the fountain of youth. It rebuilds collagen. It does all kinds of enhancements for the body. It's a sick ritual ceremonies, and now they bottle up and sell it in the vials, and people buy this shit. It's a drug. And if you see, I've looked at before and after pictures of some of these celebrities that have been on adrenochrome supposedly and then off, and they look like they aged 20 to 30 years in a matter of a month. This shit's real, and I don't care if you all call me loony or conspiracy theorist. I'm not. I know people in this business that are confirming to me what I know, and this is an operation going down, and I can't wait to see these dominoes fall, man. These pieces of shit get taken out because it's time. And I really do believe on a spiritual level, it's a mass awakening happening right now. I believe our planet is going through a global shift of consciousness to where we are all waking up and seeing the reality of what really is this matrix, or what is really going on in this reality. And I think that we're gonna have to deal with a lot of good and a lot of ugly. And because you got to have both, you got to know the dark side and the good side. And I think the dark side is going to reveal itself, and you all are going to be very, very bothered by this and disgusted. I mean, if you have any kind of good grain left in you, or any good of a morality, you're going to be disgusted with what you see. You know, I'm sitting back patiently with this quarantine, kind of knowing this information, knowing like, wow, this shit's going down. We all know the economy is not going to ever be the same. I don't know what's going to happen. There's rumors of it going to a gold-backed dollar and getting rid of the feds. I can't validate any of this, but I feel confident enough that I do know the pedophile rings are going down. And we have ships in the Caribbean right now intercepting drugs. Trump has sent big battleships out there. They're fighting the cartels. I mean, this is going down. Now, I think the virus was a global attack it was a bioweapon. I do believe that. I think the virus does exist, but not to the scale they say it is. I think fucking everyone's dying of the coronavirus, dying of other ailments, and then they're saying it's the coronavirus. I don't know. I'm skeptical about all that, but I do know Hollywood's going down right now, and I just wanted to say my little piece. There is a silver lining in this quarantine and this lockdown, and I think we all just need to be patient to see what surfaces, and it is going to. There is a documentary online that came out, a friend sent me, called Out of the Shadows. It's either In the Shadows or Out of the Shadows, but I have to check. I think it's Out the Shadows, and it's on YouTube. I would check it out. It's really good. Goes in depth about this stuff. And you're going to just see how disturbing and how sick these fucking people are. So right now, everyone just stay diligent, keep your routine simple. It's an exciting time to be alive, in my opinion. I think this is a really exciting time to be alive. I think a lot of earth-shattering breakthroughs are going to be happening. I think the direction we're going is like for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and I think we're going to start coming into a lot of preventative medicine, cures, herbal, therapies and cures for diseases. I think that we're going to have so many breakthroughs right now. I think it's such an exciting time to be alive. So that's my positive note on it. And I think that all of us need to pay attention. And, I'm learning how to meditate now. I'm praying every day. I'm starting, I never used to do that in boxing. I was always go, train, fight, intense guy. And now I'm starting to sit back and just, enjoy the view. Like, look at this view, like that's all of Mexico over there. All of Mexico. All up there. And I'm just enjoying going outside. I'm enjoying being with my family, and I'm really keeping it simple and just very down to earth, man. But I'm telling you, what's happening right now is a very, very exciting time. So pay attention, keep your ears to the ground, and know that big things are happening. And I'm convinced on that. Yeah, well, it's never going to be the same. I think just like when the internet came out, it changed humanity. It changed consciousness for humanity's consciousness. It was a shift. The internet. There's pre-internet, and then every technology was moving somewhat. It was moving slower throughout time for thousands of years. Then once internet hit, boom! It was like an explosion of information and technological breakthroughs and inventiveness and ingenuity. Right after the internet, I think that was a shift in the world. Right, it was a shift in consciousness. I think the same thing's happening now with this global shutdown, the economy being wrecked. I think it's going to forever shift our consciousness, and we're moving into a more spiritual way of being. If you choose that route, and I think it's very important that we focus on the good things. We go within, and and really pay attention to ourselves and what we want in life, and become more creative. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you all for tuning in. Uh, just wanted to give my 2 cents. That's it. Thank you all. You have a good day. Hope you enjoy the day. Go for a walk. Go for a run. Looking at all the people asking questions, I can't even read it because the sun's in my face a little bit. But yeah, it's a paradigm shift, Sonia. It's a paradigm shift. So big things happening, and I think we just gotta be patient. I love you guys, man. Take it easy.
Okay, so I think that's excellent, really. He's as a hero. He follows his heart. I think that's why people like him so much. He's down to earth, and people, he follows his heart. But I think this is the best interview that he's done. And we talked about Cathy O'Brien in the last video, and then Lynne Scott Hagerman is kind of new on the scene, but she's also a survivor. So I admire all three of these people as heroes. So let's hear their story. Okay, sorry about that. I got to go through the intro, but yeah, Nino Rodriguez. He went from being a boxer to being a truther podcaster. But he can't does use critical thinking. He follows his heart, and he's good.
What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm with the legendary Cathy O'Brien, very brave survivor. I also got another survivor who's making her ways through all the podcasts, Lynne Scott Hagerman. And basically, Lynn, you're very excited to be on a podcast with Cathy right now, right? She's kind of been your hero, is what you said, correct?
She is my hero. So when I was on your show last time, Nino, I talked about how you too are my hero. And with Cathy, Cathy, you were the first person that I ever heard talk about this type of trauma who was brave enough and bold enough and courageous enough to be able to speak the words. And it touched my heart deeply. And as a matter of fact, I just have to share, I have all of your books. I bought them all. I did. And I know you do this for everyone, but you like autographed each of them. And then I kept this note where you said peace and freedom. And I have peace and freedom now. I didn't then at all. And you've been an integral part of my healing. So I just wanted to, it's just such a privilege and an honor to meet you in person and be able to thank you for everything you've done for me that you didn't even know.
Wow.
That's so sweet. I really appreciate that. I've been speaking out for over 35 years, so I'm definitely among the first to emerge. But yeah, it's within us all to heal, and it's good to see your eyes just shining like that. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Cathy.
Wow, yeah. So let's get into this. Both of you are survivors. I'll say survivors of some of the most horrific things that can happen to a child. I've had some experiences as a child. I'm not as open and talk about it as you all do, but I think more people than not, they suppress this stuff. They don't talk about this, but a lot of people have been molested or diddled with as a child. This is more rampant than people know. I've almost heard that it happens to one in every family. I've heard like the statistics are that high. I don't know what the real statistics are, but I'm hearing more and more of this as it's coming out. It's like it's becoming more and more rampant. I mean, I see stuff like Catch a Predator, or you're starting to find out about all these high level politicians, actors that they have a preference in children. Like this is something that I would have thought over just would have been one in every million people, like a severe disorder. This is probably something that's one in every, what would you say, Cathy? How many people are predators? One in every 100, one in every less than that, more than that? What
I'd
do we
say it's
think?
whoever has it healed. That's very much a part of why they do it, and they're looking for power, or they're looking for answers to what happened to them in their childhood.
Wow.
And it's an abuse that perpetuates abuse. So um, the abuse happens to many, and it's
So
a
the
sliding
victims become the
scale.
predators.
That it can happen that way if they don't heal. And I think it's really important for people to heal from within themselves and write out their trauma before they speak out, because if they speak out, then they might be targeted by people in the know who know that if someone's not fully healed from within themselves, that they're highly suggestible and vulnerable. And then they get misled and steered and, and brought back in to the abuse situation.
But
So it's important to heal.
there's levels to this. Like
Yeah.
there's the pedophilic stuff that happens, and then it goes into ritual abuse, sacrificial abuse. I mean, like they were they like adrenochrome. I mean, there's levels to this abuse, correct?
There is, and mind control, the formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual, a classroom, a nation, or the world. And trauma is the basis of it. And people can research the Project Paperclip when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the US in the wake of World War II. With them came the formula for mind control. And knowledge is our defense against it. So this formula has been kept secret, and it includes sleep, food, and water deprivation, which makes our brain starved of nutrients and more suggestible and easily led. But above all, trauma is the basis of it. And whether that trauma is a cult ritual or sexual abuse or physical assault, no matter what it is the basis for mind control. And it was found in the Hitler-Himmler research that there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. So this pedophile agenda is a mind control agenda. It's for a globalist slave society agenda to create a more compliant society. That's why I said it's not that it's a sexual preference. It's got many layers to why it's being done, all of which really revolve around power, not sex.
So both of you have seen and have experienced horrendous things as a child. A lot of people just say, "Well, Uncle Charles came and used to come into my room at night and molest me and blah blah blah, whatever." Right? But there's levels to this that is like farming children, keeping them in deep underground military bases, using them for uh, as I don't know, sex objects for the elites, for presidents, for politicians, and then others are used just strictly to cultivate and farm adrenochrome. I mean, is it? Am I getting this right? This is the way I've always understood it. Like the way we treat cattle, the way we treat chickens is nothing compared to how they treat children in these underground tunnels and systems, and that's where people kind of just a disconnect happens. That's where they're just like, I can't go on with this. It's just too horrific to think about. But you both apparently, allegedly, I would say allegedly, you guys have seen this firsthand, correct? I'm going to start with Lynne. Lynne, introduce yourself to Cathy and tell her about your experiences. You have seen the farming of adrenochrome. Am I right in saying that, or the
Call it
taking of partaking of that
harvesting. Yeah.
harvesting?
Cathy, I was in a child trafficking ring from birth until 5 years old, and it was at the neighbor's house, and all kinds of people were involved: the police, law enforcement, religious entities, doctors, and then and there was an adrenochrome harvesting room there. in addition to that, I was taken to a university where there was slave auctions of children from all over, and we were separated by those that had families to go back to and those that did not. And I know you know why. And then underneath the university was Operation Paperclip Resonates, the government officials and the medical staff who would experiment on and torture the children. And I would see rows and rows and rows of little ones hooked to tubes for adrenochrome harvesting, organ harvesting, just flat torture, no anesthesia, and also satanic ritualistic abuse, both at the local level, and I would have to go to national conventions. So that's my background.
So, but I mean, these people that were involved. They were, you said Shriners, correct?
Not Shriners. I don't know who they were. I do know at the national level, they have conventions like we do, but they're not at all like what we have. And the men would be garbed in red satanic clothing because Satan is their god. And then they would hold the sacrifices of the little children at our stage that everyone who attended would enjoy. They're not like us.
Does that make sense to you, Cathy?
Yeah, they aren't like us. They're a very dark, negative energy force who are not like us and do not like us.
Do you think
And
they are even human? Or are they just completely possessed?
I think we need to evaluate that on a significant level, because it doesn't matter what title we give them. They are evil, they're dark, negative energy force, they're very low vibration, and they feed off of low vibration, figuratively and literally. They want to, that's why they feed off of trauma, hatred, division, fear. That's their energy level, and it's a very low vibration. And then they literally feed off it with the adrenochrome. And in my experience, I was exposed to the groundwork of the adrenochrome operations back in the mid and late 70s, when occultism was so heavily infiltrated by the CIA for the purposes of understanding how the torture and trauma that the victims go through. But the Satanists used to drink their blood. And the reason they drank their blood is for the adrenochrome. So that was the precursor, the beginning of the adrenochrome operations. And it was something I was subjected to the backwoods of Louisiana by CIA occult serial killer Wayne Cox, and Roger Clinton. Bill Clinton's half brother was in his coven, and they were running cocaine through the MENA cocaine operations back then for the CIA. In addition, they were merging the adrenalized blood into it, and that was part of Hillary Clinton's horrific operations that she was heavily involved in the human trafficking aspect and the human harvesting aspect of it. So this goes back a long, long ways. We got the same dark, negative people, whatever we want to call them, involved over and over again. And I think that's something we all need to realize, is it's just the same handful of perpetrators over and over again. It's not that many of them. It's the way they have structured their ability to blackmail, compromise, coerce, or buy off perpetrators to, perpetuate and cover up their abuse. Plus, they hide under secrecy. The 1947 National Security Act and these secret societies, and then go to the global top, follow the money. It goes to the same puppet masters at the top who have their secret global meetings. So secrecy is the problem. Again, knowledge is our defense against mind control. And when we realize that this is a small handful of criminals, then it makes it a whole lot easier to say no and stop them from meddling in our brilliant minds and lives anymore. They have no business.
So how elaborate are these systems that are underground? I would imagine that they have to do all this, like you said, it's in secrecy, but it's at a level that's a government level. So we're talking about people that are highly involved in the government, powerful people like a Hillary Clinton, a Bill Clinton, people like this. I've heard stories from friends that have gone to Saudi Arabia, and the men there, the sheikhs, are uh, openly molest little boys because they say it's for pleasure and women are for reproducing. Like that's the mindset in a lot of these royal parties that I've been told about, and I can't believe that that's even a thing. But they dress these little boys up like little girls, and they're like a delicacy to these men, these pedophiles. But the government, our government, does this in a different way to where it has to be hidden from society. And how elaborate are these systems of smuggling and these tunnels? I mean, obviously our tax dollars are paying for this, but let's go a little deeper here. Like, are they under every city? Are these systems in every? Are they in D.C.? Did they go under the White House? I've heard that there was tunnels at the Playboy Mansion. I've heard at other places like this or like that. But I mean, where are these? How elaborate is this design, and how far does it stretch? Do you want to answer that, Lynn, and then Cathy?
So I'll answer what I know and what I believe, and I do believe Cathy knows much more about this than I do. But from my own experience, I know that I was transported through underground tunnel systems to different places because I have memories. And I also know I was transported intercontinental, and that was all underground. And how that was done, I don't know because I was so little. So I firmly believe that there are tunnels everywhere. My lane is especially underneath the universities. I know Derek Johnson's talked quite a bit about how DARPA received the money to go into the universities, which I believe was to rescue children. I know Michael Jacobs told me that he thinks that most of that has been cleaned out under the universities, but I believe it's everywhere. And one thing the Lord had me start doing about 3 years ago was to get an earthquake app. And he said to trail 6.2 miles down. And so I feel like
Gene Deco talks about that.
I feel like I'm following the war because what is the probability of so many, earthquakes 6.2 miles down, and they're under the ocean, they're everywhere. So that also helps me know where the war is at, where the fighting's going on, and just continues to confirm that this is very, very real.
Go ahead, Kathy.
In my experience, since I was born into this and thrust in like around 1960 under the guise of national security because of the multi-generational incest and occult ritual and my abuse phase. I was so early on. It was before internet, before people had cell phones and cameras everywhere, So they were using the blackmail operations back then with those great big reel-to-reel films, and my father was caught sending the child pornography through the mail, and that's how he ended up being given immunity from prosecution and thrusting me into the project. Well, these covert films, these blackmail films, were being done at the time at the Epstein Island of its day, Mackinac Island, Michigan. Later, it went to Bohemian Grove, and then throughout the Caribbean in later years. These blackmail operations like that have been going on, and then they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak, because they don't trust each other either. But as far as the tunnels go, everything was just hiding in plain sight back then because of how long ago this started with me. And people didn't think to look for that kind of criminal activity. So they weren't even really hiding it anywhere. It was just happening out in the open. There were still undergrounds. There was the underworld at Disney World, which was an epicenter for MK Ultra mind control programming. There was
I've heard that. You're telling me like at Disneyland and Disney World they would have tunnels where they kidnap kids or what?
Absolutely. They got the
Oh
programming epicenters underground. And they're also used for military
So
programming.
hold on. So like people that take their kids to like Disneyland or Disney World, that's like pedophile haven. That's like where the predators are. And wow.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and it would make sense. Like the amusement parks, Um, what churches, daycares? Do daycares have tunnels under them? I mean, I'm not saying every daycare, but I'm sure.
McMartin, Presidio, Michael Aquino was involved in those. Yeah, there are, the uses of the daycare and the um, Catholic orphanages were just constantly used that way. There's different things, but they're hiding in plain sight because people didn't realize what was being done. So, and in my experience, everything was just hiding in plain sight. And there's still a lot going on right in our own backyards that we need to open our eyes to. It's easier to believe that it's happening only underground because then we understand why we didn't see it. But when we understand the components of mind control and how it really works, then we realize, oh, it's happening right in front of us. Oh, it's happening in our school systems. You know, I mean, we're indoctrinating the children and sexualizing the children in the school systems, even. And then, as far as the Disney thing goes, again, people can research Project Paperclip because Disney was part of that and associated with Werner von Braun. And what does NASA have to do with Disney? Mind control, MK Ultra mind control. So the more we research, the easier it is to see how this came about.
There used to be I would go to Catholic school. I'm not going to name the Catholic school, but there was a kid that was always spreading rumors about how the church had tunnels, and it had these tunnels and those tunnels that led to different houses, and he would tell us all this stuff. We were like a third or fourth grade. I remember that kid just one day just never came back to school, like, or maybe it was the end of the summer, and I thought we had kids transfer schools or whatever, but I remember that kid was like always telling us that there was tunnels in the church and tunnels going to houses, and that kid never came back to school. But I remember that very clearly, and that memory just popped in my head. So that's weird. Um, and I've heard from other people that there's tunnels to the churches here, the Catholic churches. So I wonder. I mean, I don't know. I think about that, and I'm gonna be thinking about that. That's kind of crazy. Um, I've heard that now rumor. I can't say with that any of this has been validated or whatever, just hearsay, but a lot of these people build children hospitals, right? And they connect to what these deep underground bases. They take the children from the hospitals or things like that. So they make it seem like a place you can trust when really it's a funneling system. I don't know who wants to answer that.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot. We have a lot to examine. We especially need to examine our so-called child protective services. That's a nightmare of human trafficking operations, and it's been structured that way through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which my owner in MK Ultra Mind Control, U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd, set up in the FBI building. I really do hope that we take that Hoover building in Washington, D.C., and turn it into a deep state museum, because the corruption that has gone on there for so long was being planted by Senator Byrd in the mid 80s. And then when the children were caught that were being trafficked, they were turned right into the system, into the so-called child protective services, and trafficked further that way. So I saw that system set up. And then after Mark rescued my daughter and me in 1988, she was thrust into that system because the FBI testified against her. So we've got some significant corruption from so many directions that we need to re-examine the whole way that our government agencies are structured to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia, even to the point of our court systems being compromised by the National Security Act. We have a lot to re-examine because our children are the ones who have been targeted. They cannot wait for the system to clean up. We need to wake up, realize what's going on, and start taking positive action ourselves for the children's sake.
So, Nino, if I can address the above ground part too, that Cathy was to piggyback off of that. So, as I am out and about in my normal day, I routinely see children that I know are being abused. You can see it. I can tell and I can detect it. That includes the public school system. And to piggyback off that, so I'm an international human resource consultant also. And so I follow the laws. And Title VII covers our educational system. And this past year, the Biden-Harris administration pushed through all the public schools, requiring men who think they're women for the day to be allowed in the little girls' bathrooms, and women who think they're men for the day to be allowed in the men's bathrooms with the little boys, because women do that. It's not just men. I don't want people to think this is men, because this is women too, that are so.
Right, and that's what really surprised me. Women are just as guilty.
Yes, I think more men than women. But this pedophile agenda Cathy's talking about is so real and alive in our public school system. And I don't believe it's just in this country, but I know it is in this country. So they're also teaching. I had a friend of mine who was working at school and saw a little boy who was, and I'm just going to say it because I think we need to talk about these things, a kindergartner who was masturbating. That's not normal. And the principal said, "Oh, Johnny's exploring himself." Well, that's because they're being trained now that that is normal for little children to
Wow.
do. And so that's
Instead
pushing
of raising questions like what's happening at home.
because in the past, they would have spoken up. Now, is that good? Not really. I mean, what do we do? Because like Cathy said, the CPS system is so corrupt. Then if, that's where this eventually goes. So it's a mess. And I know that President Trump has said that he's going to get rid of the Department of Education, and that absolutely needs to be done, and
Yes.
sooner rather than later. But right now, the parents need to know their children are in trouble. I mean, they're in trouble everywhere. I was talking to a client yesterday, Starbucks. They had two bathrooms with two stalls in each one, gender neutral. Her 8-year-old went in one, and a man followed right behind her. Now, she
Man.
became a mama bear, and she went on the attack. And I mean, she's like, "You're not going to get in this back." I mean, just protected her daughter. The manager came over and wanted to know what her problem was. The man was complaining because he couldn't go in where that little girl was. So parents just need to be on red alert. We are on red alert. I don't care if you're going
But
to Walmart.
this was all part of the agenda of taking the father out of the strong father out of the household. I've heard, pedophiles, what is it? The three things they target are children without fathers, children without religion, the shy kid. I've heard that, and it only takes a pedophile, what, 30 seconds to mess up a kid's life forever. I just, man, it's just so sickening to me. I've heard also national parks. National parks is where a lot of disappearances happen. Do you guys know anything about that?
I don't know of any place that we don't need to be vigilant. I mean, it's too pervasive. It's been allowed to go on for so long. We've been conditioned to allow for the pedophile agenda ever since the very first Disney movies, because they were subliminally conditioning us to that right from the get-go for the purposes of mind control. And then the education system, I worked under education secretaries Bill Bennett and Lamar Alexander. This is my 1995 testimony for Congress, Transformation of America, where they're putting global education into the school system. So global education. So yes, this is worldwide, is for a new world order, is to create compliance. And it was to indoctrinate the children. So Senator Byrd had made the states reliant on federal funding, and that was how the Department of Education gained its control over the school system, which gave them control over the minds of the children. Then the sexualization of the children began. And this indoctrination, I've talked to so many teachers now who are appalled at what's going on and realize they had been indoctrinated in their education to allow for it, and so on and so on. Well, after 3 generations, any abuse-based belief system or knowledge base becomes autogenic in the brain. It's passed down genetically and it becomes autogenic. Well, we've had 3 generations now. That's why some people are compliant and don't know that it's wrong for the man to be following that little child, that little girl into the bathroom. So the Title IX that was allowing for all this gender, blurred line that was going on in the school system, our Attorney General was there were many attorney generals that got together and brought it before the Supreme Court and finally just knocked that one down. We're winning little victories here and there, but it's taking more time than the children have. So it's up to the parents to re-educate themselves, expand their thinking beyond what they think they know, go beyond their own indoctrination, and start facing the reality that mind control is what's being used on the children for the indoctrination. So
I mean, it's in music, it's in everything.
It is.
I just saw, I think, a Cardi B
media.
picture. Did you see that Cardi B picture where she's sitting on the motorcycle pregnant and it says pedophile in graffiti behind her? Like subliminally, they're pushing this. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh man, I'm
this?
so ever since the election, I'm relieved that there's not so many bloody, traumatic, occult, satanic images in my face all day long. It's all over social media, it's everywhere. And it had been, but it's fading out fast. I think we've reached a point of awareness with this great awakening that the vibrations raising higher, however we want to look at it, with this.
They're being called out. They're being called out.
Yes.
Like people, if you look at their comments or on their posts, like people are just eating them alive now. I mean, this is big.
Yeah, I'm excited at all the positive changes that are coming about, especially and including the dismantling of so-called intelligence agencies that have been allowing for the proliferation of mind control and perpetuating it under secrecy and everything else. Has got to stop. We got to really take a close examination of the FBI, because the very structure of it is a good example of how things have happened the way that they have. These perpetrators, these puppet masters at the top, all they need is to have a director of the FBI. The FBI have been majorly recruited out of Brigham Young, and that's something people can research. Like the Mormons right off their bicycles, were being recruited into the FBI because they do what they're told.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a Mormon who's an FBI agent.
Yes, that's why they look like that.
Yeah, yeah, they do what they're told. They don't question.
You can see the call. Well, okay, so we got the one at the top. He's over the FBI. They do what they're told. Those FBI have authority over all local law enforcement. They can step in on any case, invoke national security, and take the case over. So we get this one director at the top, and they have control over all law enforcement except the constitutional sheriffs. Our sheriffs don't have to march to their orders. They're our saving grace. We need to be mindful on our sheriff's department and in that regard. But just given this one example, one person at the top and wham, it looks like they're all corrupt. They're not. It's the structure, and we've got to realize that and restructure it, because the FBI then reaches into the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, reaches into the Child Protective Services, and that is too much power and control over our children that is happening through the placement of one corrupt director.
So I was going to ask both of you, I know that it's a very rare thing to survive this kind of abuse. How many children from the abuse that both of you took, Lynn and Cathy, I would imagine how many, 1 in 10 children survive, 1 in 100 children survive. What are the statistics to survive the type of abuse you both endured? Like, how many kids actually make it out? Because I would imagine it's a very, very rare thing. Are they rare thing? Do they end up just are they just ultimately murdered at a certain age? Are you allowed to live into a certain age and then they come back and kill you? Do you just have so much trauma you block it out? How many people do survive this? How many kids survive this kind of government trauma where it's organized? How many kids survive that? You guys are a very, very rare breed, I would imagine. So, Lynn, do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, that's really on my heart, Nino. So, my experience, again, I was from birth to 5 years old, and then it stopped. So I saw all the little wee ones.
But why would they stop?
Well, it stopped for me because just my parents divorced, my mom moved, my grandma was there, and now my mom was held accountable by my grandma. So it's just as kind of as simple as that because Cathy, I had generational pedophilia on my mother's side. So she was the one that sent me all those places. But what I saw was in the child trafficking house, any child that was brought in that didn't get started with all of the horrific trauma, mind control. Cathy is so eloquent at explaining so much better than me. But if they weren't at least a year old, um, and they were brought in any older, their little wee minds and bodies could not handle the depth of the trauma and the mental and physical, because I don't call it sex, I call it physical and mental torture, because I speak for the little girl in me that survived, and that's exactly what that was. Sex had nothing to do with it. So all of those, they all died. And whether it was because their little minds and bodies couldn't take it and they just died, or they were killed. And then at the university, I mean, every one of those children that didn't have a home to go to, and there were a lot of them, they were all executed. And I want to change terminology. These are executions. This adrenochrome harvesting, these amputations, this organ harvesting, it's done until they're dead. And so most of the children that I was around were killed. And I President Trump said something a year or two ago, and he said that he promised he would bring every child home. And what resonated with me is I saw so many children buried in the yard, so many. And so if President Trump ever hears you, Nino, my message is when you find a pedophile, dig up the yard, because when the little ones don't have homes to go to, they don't survive this. I did not see them, my experience, I didn't see them survive. And it's time to bring them all home.
Jeez, the yard. What about you, Lynn? Kathy, you survived something just as equally horrific. I mean, you got your thoughts back after 30, right? Were you 30 when you started retrieving your memories?
Yes, there's some electrochemical changes that happen in the brain around age 30, and repressed memory, which is where neuron pathways shut down around trauma to repress it. So the rest of the mind can function normally as though nothing had happened. That's just a brain function we need to understand. When around age 30, there's electrochemical changes that happen and they start opening neuron pathways, and there's little memory leaks that happen. And that's when people that MK Ultra survivors like Britney Spears shave their head, or whatever. It's around age 30 that this starts to happen. So in my situation, on a White House Pentagon level, the mind control slaves were eliminated at age 30 or before, just before age 30, so that they wouldn't go into that electrochemical change. I was scheduled to be eliminated at that time at Bohemia Grove. I was going to be burned alive, and Mark Phillips intercepted me. Very fortunately for me, intelligence insider Mark Phillips intercepted my daughter and me, and handed me the keys to healing from that point going forward. But very few survived back then. I didn't. I was among the very first to be able to even heal and start speaking out. So um, in that regard, looking at today, what's happening, there's houses open up everywhere across this nation that I'm acutely aware of and actively involved in, where they're taking the survivors and giving them a safe place to be until they can start to heal, because it is within us all to heal. If we're in a safe place, we can heal. We've been blessed with resiliency of body, mind, and spirit all along. We can heal. That's the really good news on it. And the fact that there's all these places that have opened up is deeply encouraging, because awareness is the first step towards positive, necessary change. People are facing this reality. They are aware now, and they're taking action. And it's so encouraging to see. So from where I came from, I would say the numbers that survived were very, very few. And the numbers now that are surviving are increasing by the day as more and more people wake up. So that's the really good news. I think the hard one that we're all going to have to face is this harvesting of children, the adrenochrome and the organ harvesting, and it's got to stop. We got to face that fact too. And as we do, more and more children will survive in that regard too. So awareness is key. Truth is imperative. It's why I appreciate you so much. You know, you're just relentlessly bringing truth out there. You have for so long now. I really deeply, deeply appreciate what you do to raise that awareness, because it's making all the difference in the world for the children's sake, for other survivors' sake, and for our future's sake, where we go from here.
Let me ask you about, you hear these rumors and theories about, which I've heard from very trusted people within Hollywood, that Oprah and people of that caliber, she's like 1 degree of separation of John of God, who was a prolific pedophile, that Oprah was involved in trafficking children. And you hear these stories. Have you guys ever encountered, I guess she was after your time, I guess, but I mean, I've heard that she's very involved in the trafficking. Now that's allegedly, but I mean, you put 2 and 2 together, and then her spiritual guide or her spiritual mentor was a very prolific pedophile trafficker, John of God, right? So you put those together. Have you guys? But I want to go back a little further to the time of Mother Teresa, who Mother Teresa has been pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell's dad while he's on the phone making calls. And I'm wondering to myself, was that all front? Because it sure would have worked if it was. Do you guys know anything about Mother Teresa? Was she a trafficker? I mean, I've heard things. I can't prove anything, but I would like to get your input. Both of you.
I know about both, a little bit about both. One, the Catholic orphanages have always been a major mind control epicenter, pedophile center, and it's horrific, the crimes that have gone on there for so long. So we need to definitely examine that. As for Oprah, she's in access denied for reasons of national security, which detailed marks in my journey through the corrupted justice and mental health system to free my daughter from that child protective services. And that was in Nashville, Tennessee at the time. And Oprah was just getting her start. She was a newscaster, and we spoke to her on the phone, and she absolutely refused to do anything to help my daughter's situation, and said she was aware the child sex trafficking and the human trafficking and MK Ultra mind control, but she wasn't doing anything about it. So, I know that much from way back then, and then watching all this other unfold, I'm not surprised. There's a moral compass within us that that would have us stand against this kind of horrific abuse when we know about it.
Lynn, what about you?
So I don't know anything specifically about her, but I fast forward to like the P. Diddy information that's coming out now, and all I know is like hangs out with like. And so if you picture just us, if you knew someone was a pedophile, would you continue to hang out with them? No. And so that's just so those who continue to hang out with those that we know are pedophiles, I put them all in the same camp, because a person of light and high energy and high frequency would not hang out with that. Their being wouldn't allow it. It would be too offensive.
Right. So Oprah hanging out with John of God as her spiritual guru.
Which is even closer. When someone's helping you spiritually, that's a super close place to let someone in. If spiritually, like what was that? Probably.
And then look at her endorsing Kamala. We all know this is good versus evil.
Yes.
I mean, anybody who's endorsing Kamala, come on, you got to know. Like, that's
right. And we're done being lied to. It's like Cathy is very good about talking about knowledge and truth, knowledge and truth. For years, the politicians, the entertainers, the athletes, professional athletes, they've said, oh yeah, I know you see this, but don't believe what your eyes see. And because of the MK Ultra mind control, we were like, okay, we won't believe what our eyes see. We'll think that you guys are awesome. And that's just not the case. We need to wake up and believe what our eyes see and proceed on that as truth and go from there.
Well, this is something that I've been looking at, when you even see like abortion, abortion to me is mass sacrifice at the most spiritual level. It's a sacrifice to Baal, right? To Baal or whatever the entity is they worship. There's so many of them. But this all goes together. The open borders of the millions and children that are coming over here, the 300 something thousand that are unaccounted for, which I think there's a lot more than that. But that's really an open operation right there of human trafficking. I mean, that's just like the biggest consumer of human trafficking is America, correct? So open borders is the main reason they want that is for the trafficking, correct? So they can just get away with it. Am I right in saying that, Cathy?
Yeah, that's been going on my whole life. This open border has allowed for drug and human trafficking, which is the funding mechanism of this globalist slave society agenda. It's been the funding mechanism my whole life. So that's why when elections were stolen in 2020, the first thing they did was fling the border back open to their funding mechanism. So we've got to get that cleaned up. I'm so pleased to have met Tom Homan, the
Oh boy,
President
he's gonna
Trump's
lay down
eyes.
the law, man.
His compassion, his kindness, his genuine soulfulness, his concern for the children, and concern for the future of humanity if we allow this to go on is very, very encouraging. And I'm encouraged by what can be done, but we all have to do our part. We can't rely on big government to do this for us. It's going to take too long to clean it up. It's up to each and every one of us. It's like the very first time President Trump was elected. I was so excited. It was like, come on, everybody, now's our chance. And nobody did anything. I just waited. It doesn't work that way, people. We got to drain the swamp from the bottom up. It's up to each and every one of us to do our part. And we need to take that action now while we have support at the top instead of extreme opposition, because that opposition has been horrific and it's got to stop. It's been going on my whole life. I was so excited 2016. I'm thrilled right now, but I'm not counting on perfection. It can't happen that way when human beings can make mistakes. We can have a wrong appointment to somebody at the top. We can't rely on that structure anymore. We've got to understand it's going to take a lot to clean it up. And as long as we've got other people in high positions of power with that kind of soulful compassion, that strength of the human spirit and that infinite power of love, that concern for our children, then we all have a chance. This is our time. It's our time for action. It's our time to live love, to open our eyes, and to start making the positive necessary change right now while we can.
Fair enough. Cathy and Lynn, thank you for joining me. I'll let you guys give a shout out. Lynn, is there a book you're selling, or is there a place people can find you to reach you?
No book I'm selling, although Cathy inspires me, and I'm sure one day I will. But my the website that talks about what I'm doing now to help the children is called Q, the letter Q, and then grit.org. And then I'm also an independent LifeWave distributor because that's helped me greatly too in my healing. And that is Live Younger with Lynne, Lynnne.
Well, can they get it on the Q Grit?
Yes, there's a link on my Grit.
Okay.
Yep, thanks, Nino.
And what about you, Cathy?
People can find me on my website, trance-formation.com, trance-formation.com. My books are there, my blog posts are there, interviews, all kinds of tools for people to be able to take back our freedom and start making a positive difference now.
Awesome. I appreciate you women coming on, and it means a lot to me. And you're both very brave to shine a light on this. And my platform is open for you too anytime you want.
Thank you, Nino.
Great. Thank you, Nina.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Okay, awesome interview there. Awesome interview. So let me stop share for a second here and I'll be right back. Okay, let's go to the last interview, number 3 on human trafficking, Ryan Matta.
What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I am joined with Next Level Productions, Ryan Matta, executive producer of hashtag traffic and hashtag invasion, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is big because we're going to be talking about what a lot of people consider a conspiracy, which I don't. I've had Megan Walsh on my channel talk about this. I've had a few other people talk about this, about government trafficking. Not only am I on the border and I understand what's happening, I've lived on the El Paso Juarez border for all my life, and I know just how big a commodity children are. You think drugs, you think cocaine, you think weed, you think all that's big. Nothing is as big as trafficking human beings. And who else has their hands in it? Our own government. And I know this just by talking to certain people just in the area. Children are used for many different things, pedophilia being one of them. They're trafficked through foster homes. They're trafficked through the CPS. They are used for at high levels of the elite adrenochrome, and that's something nobody ever wants to talk about. But you're going to show us that you've really researched this, you've really looked into this, and you can put all the points of contact together for us. You understand how they're being trafficked through our government, correct?
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely.
Wow.
One angle of it. There's multiple. You touched on the CPS side. That's a completely different animal. That's the trafficking of American children that is being ran by our government, which is also happening. I'm going to show you guys today the new part that is the unaccompanied alien children. So we have all these unaccompanied migrant children that are showing up at our border. I'm going to break you down and walk you through the entire process step by step.
So the biggest traffickers that we could look at right now or that are allowing this is Biden Harris.
100%. But I want to be very clear, and I'll break it down and I'll show you the numbers. This is a Democrat agenda, and it is currently being bankrolled by the Republicans. The Republicans took the power of the purse 2 years ago, and I'm going to show you how much more money the NGOs have received under Republicans since Republicans have taken office versus what they were receiving under Democrats. This part blew my mind.
So they're all the same, which
All the
we've
same.
it's both the same bird, two different wings. That's it.
The swamp, my friend, the swamp.
Swamp, yeah. Let's go. Let's roll. I'm ready when you are.
Let's do it, brother. So I'm going to share my, this is a presentation I just started working on. So it's not all together, but it'll give you guys enough of what's going on here. So let me get this side small as possible for you guys. And so right now, what we have here is we have government-funded child trafficking. The world's largest child trafficking network is ran by your government and funded with your tax dollars. So I want to show you right now, as of today, this is the Office of Refugee Resettlement's website as of July of 2024. So these are fiscal years. On the left side, you'll see the state, and at the top, you'll see year. So we start over here at 2015, 16, 17, all the way to July of 2024. And it'll show you the amount of unaccompanied children that have arrived at our border and were delivered to the state of Alabama in 2015 all the way through. So we scroll down to the very bottom of this. I want to point out two things first. So first, I want to show you in 2020. So this is right here under the Trump administration. This last year in office, we only had 16,873 unaccompanied migrant children arrive at our border. Fast forward over to 2021, that number increases by 689%, up to 107,646. And if you go 2021, 22, 23, and then 2024, as of July 1st, you can see that total number is 437,103 unaccompanied alien children have arrived at our border. These are children between the ages of 0 and 17 that arrive without a parent. So you're looking at about 124,000 per year on average. Now, over that 3.5-year period, as of about 3 weeks ago, it's actually about August 29th, I believe, our government had openly admitted to losing track of 323,000 of them. That's 92,000 kids per year. These migrant children are just vanishing. If you break that down per day, that's roughly 251 per day. So let's just round and keep it simple and say 250 children per day, every day.
I mean,
vanish.
is that a guesstimate? I mean, what about, there's so many people, there's millions of people coming over here. I mean, how do we really keep track of how many kids?
You have no idea. These are just this is what's so crazy about this. These are just the official numbers. Just the official.
Wow. So that's just the official numbers. We really don't know how many people are coming here through tunnels and other means that are
No, you can
never
double that.
tracked and never.
You can, at the very least, you double that number. Most experts triple it.
I would say even more than that. I don't know. I would imagine it's
So-
astronomical.
So check this out, Nino. Let me give your audience an idea, just so they can wrap their head around 100,000. Can you hear the audio on that?
No, I cannot.
Okay, so I'll just pause it. So right here, what you're looking at, this is U of M Stadium. This is the big house. Anybody that's into sports can understand. It's the largest football stadium in America that holds 100,000 people. 100,000. So give your audience an idea. If 100,000 children vanished, that's what you'd be looking at. If 325,000 vanished, you're talking about 3 U of M stadiums. So how the hell is this possible? Well, it only becomes possible when you have a public-private partnership. And that means that DHS is working hand in hand with the cartels. HHS has turned into the human trafficking arm of the federal government, and ORR has turned into the child trafficking arm of the United States government. And they do so with plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is the ability to deny knowledge or responsibility for actions taken by others, often to avoid blame. So what we have here is how our government has turned into these trafficking arms. So I want to kind of show you this part quick, and I'm going to break it down for you. So you have mules who are turned into our Border Patrol agents are now the mules. HHS, Health and Human Services, is now the child trafficker. Your NGOs have replaced the stash house. And once the stash house and the NGOs are operating, there's so much money involved that it's super easy for them to compromise.
Hold on, time out.
Yep.
Just for a second. Let me just look at this for a second. Mules, people need to understand how many compromised Border Patrol agents there are, by the way. A lot of drug shipments that are let through, they're let through by compromised Border Patrol agents. And that would have to go along with also the kids, correct? Like
100%,
many
my
Border
friend.
Patrol agents work for the cartels. People don't seem to understand this. They think, oh no, they're the good guys. No, they're as crooked as the federales in Mexico. A lot of
100%. A lot of them.
And then when you say
Yale did a study, and they wanted to see like how much it would cost to compromise a Border Patrol agent. They just did this big, massive study, and what they found, they were absolutely shocked that for as little as $10,000, you can pretty much compromise a majority of these Border Patrol agents.
bro, we used to compromise them for a couple $100.
See, the fucking worst.
Okay, so that number's off. I know that for a fact. I lived on the border, and I used to do a lot of bad things going back and forth on the border, and not one of them ever questioned me. You give them a couple $100, they were cool with it.
No shit.
Yeah.
So
and that was back when I was just like 15, 16 years old, man. I was just a kid, and I would, bring drugs over, or I would just stealing cars. I was just doing all kinds of like stuff. But I mean, they didn't ever question, and it was just so lackadaisical. It was unbelievable.
Jeez, oh, Pete. Well, that makes it all makes sense because when you're talking about how these children are arriving here, so they're coming from third world countries, right? And a lot of times it's actually a good family, and they might live in a village that barely has electricity, doesn't have running water, surrounded by cartel members. And then what'll happen is they'll have like these advanced or these exclusive elite nannying services. So these traffickers pose as a nannying service, and they'll go over, and I'm not saying that this elite nannies is one of them. I'm just using this as an example. They'll go over to these third world countries, and they'll say, hey, we have this elite nannying service where we offer nannies to VIPs and celebrities. So we can take your 12 or 13-year-old daughter. We're going to take her to America. She's going to get this great job. She's going to be working as a nanny. You'll be able to be in contact with your daughter. She's going to get the American dream. We're going to pay for her school. She'll have insurance, healthcare, everything. So that's just one ruse.
Whoa, wait. So, and then the families,
Yep.
they sign off on this? Like they get the permission from the families to take their children?
Yep. Sometimes. This is just one example of, I could give you 1,000 different ones, but let's just use the nanny.
So it really is like that movie Sound of Freedom, where they took the kid and then he went back to go retrieve his kid later in the day, and they were gone.
Yes,
so these nanny services go there, kidnap the kids, and leave?
Yeah, but the good ones actually don't have to kidnap. They get the kid out willingly. They get the parents to actually sign off and say, hey, you can take our daughter to America. You can take our daughter wherever you're going to take her to do this nannying job. And they completely sign off on it. So they're in this third world country. And what happens is as soon as that child gets to the recruiter gets that child, once that child is handed over to the smuggler, that's when the child is broken, right? That's when they begin raping, torturing, and beating that child into submission. And what they tell that child is, you know that our cartels are right outside your village. So you say anything, you call the cops, you try to run, you try to escape, we're going to go ahead and execute your entire family. So the family thinks their daughter is safe going to a nannying service. She's getting pimped out. And in return, the family thinks their daughter is getting a great life in America. Right. So
But don't they have contact with the daughter or the child?
yeah, and the daughter is told, you say anything, we're going to kill your family. Right. She's now in America. She's now been raped, beaten. She's a kid. She's 13. She's tortured. These kids don't know. And then eventually they get them on drugs, and it's a
They
huge
die by
racket.
the time they're 18 or 20, right?
Yeah, they got about a 2-year life expectancy. So then you have, and this would be a normal operation, right? So then the smuggler would take them from, there's 189 or 180 out of 189 nations that we're receiving children from. So you have smugglers from all over the world bringing children to Mexico. Now, right now in Mexico, the most liquid commodity is a child. Just like you said, you could steal a car in Detroit, and I could go take any car in Detroit and get $3,000 for it right now. You can take any child to Mexico and instantly get about $3,000 for them. So then the cartels would bring them to Mexico border. They're trafficking them through Mexico. Then they use a mule to bring the child across the border. The mule then hands the child over to a child trafficker. The trafficker then takes them to a stash house while they wait to coordinate the buying. And then once the buyer has them, the child's now living the American nightmare. Now, what we've done and what our government has done here, right, is they've created this system with HHS and DHS. So now all the cartels have to do is get the child to the Mexico border with a name tag on it. And then from there, the Border Patrol agent's going to receive the child. He's going to deliver the child to HHS. HHS is going to hand them over to an NGO. And the NGO, the child is sitting at this NGO facility waiting for HHS to give the go-ahead to deliver that child to whatever adult. So this is the part that's going to blow your mind, right? So this is how these children are arriving at our border from these cartels. They're coming over with name badges on them. Some of them will have a phone number written on their hand. Some are wearing a name badge, and I could play this video if it had audio, but it won't. But you can just see this is an interaction where this woman said she just found this kid randomly, right? So she could be honest. She could have just found them, or she could be the mule that brings them to the border, right? So they have somebody bring the child over, they hand them over to Border Patrol, and then Border Patrol will process them in. These kids are coming with phone numbers stapled to their shirt. They're coming with pieces of paper folded up in their pocket. This is the buyer's information. Some of them even just have the number, the information written right on the child's hand. So then, and this is what you see here, right? So this is images of Border Patrol, of cartels dropping children over a border wall. That's a border wall, and we have children getting dropped over it, and I can actually play this one so you can actually see it. This is what it looks like. These are children just getting dropped over a border wall, right? So when I tell you, right, just think about this one, Nino, and I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen so you can see me for a second, right? Imagine this. Would cartels ever bring their load of fentanyl to our border and just drop it over the border wall for Border Patrol agents to pick up? They would never do that, right? They would only do that if they knew that the Border Patrol agents were going to pick up their dope and drugs and deliver it to the final destination. So the reason that they're not is because these Border Patrol agents, inadvertently, whether they know it or they don't know it, they are still working for the cartels, because they are going to pick up this child and they are going to put him into the system. Whether the cartels paid them to put them into the system or do it that way, the system is designed that way. So inherently, by just taking this child's information and checking him in, he's going to put this buyer's information into the child's file. And then from there, the child's going to get handed over to HHS. And this is where he'll come to like an HHS intake facility. And once in this HHS intake facility, the Border Patrol, the HHS person interviews the child, and she does an initial intake screening, and the child can stay in this facility for 2 to 14 days. And the 14 days is if they've been raped or assaulted. If they haven't been raped or assaulted, they just get processed through and then they get shipped over to an NGO. Now, during that initial intake process, HHS is reviewing the kid's file, right? And then in that kid's file is the quote unquote, the sponsor's information. The sponsor's information is in that file because the Border Patrol agent took the information off that kid and put it into the file. And that kid's telling the Border Patrol agent, that's my uncle, that's my dad, it's my father, right? Because they've been raped and beaten in submission to say that exact same thing. So you actually have to dig and you have to try to interview these kids and get the information out of them.
How did you research all this and find out all of this information? I mean, this is a lot of work.
Whistleblowers, all of them. I've been on this for 2 years. I was on Kyle Seraphin, he's an FBI whistleblower, on his podcast, And I was actually his producer at one point when he first got started. And he had brought this whistleblower named Carlos Arellano onto his show. And he told me this story about these camps where he worked at the actual NGOs where the kids are staying. I haven't got to that part yet, but after HHS processes them, they hand them over to an NGO. And these are long-term care facilities where the children can stay for a couple days or up to a couple years. Some of them even hit 18 and age out of the system. That's a whole different story. But Carlos came and told me, and he's like, yeah, man, I broke this story about 6 months ago on Fox News, and nobody's really, dug into it. And I was so mind blown by what he was telling me. I couldn't even believe it. And he goes, listen, man, I know it sounds crazy, but if you come down to Texas, I can take you to these facilities. And I'm like, wait, these facilities are still open and running? You tell me there's thousands of kids inside of a fucking Walmart, and you can walk me up to the door? He said, well, I can't walk you to the door because security will stop us before we get halfway through the parking lot, but I can walk you up right to the edge of the property, and we can do an interview out there if you wanted. And I remember calling my boss being like, hey, at LFA TV, I'm like, Jeremy, I think I got this fucking massive story. Like, it's so big. I'm new to journalism at this time, new to investigative research from the political side. And I'm like, but I think it's like Pulitzer surprise. Like, America's going to be so fucking outraged when they hear this story. I got to go down there and break it. I said, if there's not a story, I'll pay for it. If there is, then, LFA can cover my cost of travel. We're not a big network, so they don't pay me to go. I just get my costs covered, And I go down there, and not just one. Within 15 minutes of the airport, there was 5 that we could drive to. And they had kids. One had boys between the ages of 13 and 17. 2,000 in this Walmart. Well, they say 1,200 capacity, but Carlos was telling me there was times where there was 2,000 boys in there. Another facility right down the road held women between the ages of 0 and 12. With one of the warehouses there is just a cribs. As far as the eye can see, it's like a giant pole barn with just nothing but cribs as far as the eye can see, Carlos said. About 80
Fucking
of them. Babies, dude. How does a 2-year-old tell you who his father is or who his aunt is? And if you're not DNA testing, which we know they've openly admitted to, they only DNA test 8% of the children that are coming over. And in my opinion, the only ones that get DNA tested are the ones that they're like, yep, you're the family, right? So we're going to DNA test because you're going to pass it. Those are the only ones that we're seeing getting DNA tested.
So this is like true evil. This is
pure evil. Pure evil. We have
evil.
Let me show you how evil this is, right? Let me switch back to my sharing my screen over here. Give me 1 second, because when you understand how much money and how long this has been going on for, it changes. I don't know what it changes. It just changes your perception of reality, because it's so outrageous.
It's almost like what we've done to cattle, what we've done to chickens and poultry, they're doing to us.
Yes. Yes.
We're no different. We are no different.
No, we're dollar signs to these people. That's all they see here. So this is when I say it's a for-profit child prison camps for unaccompanied alien children, it's literally a brilliant scheme. So this is all 100% funded by our tax dollars. These camps that are holding these children and trafficking these children and delivering these children couldn't exist if it wasn't for our tax dollars. So I wanted to go just one of them. This is just Southwest Key Programs over the last 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, has received $2.89 billion goddamn dollars. Billion from our government. So that's how much these NGO facilities are making, $750 per day per child. Per day per child. So I go this, I go, okay, if you had to take a guess, is it deep state Republicans or deep swamp Democrats? Speaker Johnson versus Speaker Pelosi. Who do you think gave more to the NGOs?
I'm going to say Johnson. I'm going to say Johnson.
Damn right, Johnson, by 35%. $1.74 billion was given to these NGOs under Johnson versus Pelosi. Now let's talk about the next biggest one, which is MVM Inc. MVM Inc., Democrats, 226 million, Republicans, 7.8 million. That is a 71% increase to this MVM Inc. This is also a CIA contractor who was running military operations in Iraq and Afghanistan for our government, and was now magically somehow the first NGO to get a contract to transport these children. And then the next one up, which is also kind of like a mix between families and children, they do a little bit with the children, is Endeavors, and it's the same type of setup here. Obviously, 91.5% more from Republicans than Democrats. And if I had time to play this, I would play this entire 3-minute video, which is the power of the purse. So it's every single politician.
Christian, he prays and he does all those things.
Yep.
He's basically funding child trafficking.
So this is a video right here. This is me calling Speaker Johnson. This was before the last CR bill. I called, you get to call Congress, and every once in a while, somebody will actually answer. So just by the grace of God, I was live on LFA TV.
Yeah, but
call
you
in
can
Speaker
play
Johnson.
this if you just put share sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you, I mean,
Yeah, that's a great one. Let me. How do I share sound?
you probably have to stop share again and then go back
Gotcha.
in, and then when you go back on and it shows a window, it says there's a little checkbox in there that says
Oh
share
yeah,
sound.
I see it. Let's do
There
that,
you go.
brother.
Yeah.
1 second, I just got to give this permission.
Yeah, I want them to be able to hear this.
Into my settings and give Zoom permission. No, it's not letting me. It's not letting me. Can you hear this now?
Government is funding
Yep.
are
hear it?
delivering minor
Yes.
children.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's do it.
Afraid I can help you.
Yeah, can I be transferred to Mike Johnson?
One moment. Your Johnson's office, please hold.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaker Johnson's office. How may I help you today?
Yeah, hi. This is my name is Ryan Matta. I'm a reporter over on LFA TV. We're doing a live stream right now. We just interviewed a guest. His name is Anthony Rubin from muckraker.com. He just obtained footage that the NGOs that our government is funding are delivering minor children. These are the unaccompanied minor children that are coming across the border, right? They are captured by Border Patrol. Border Patrol processes them. They turn them over to the NGO. And then HHS facilitates these children finding what they call a sponsor. Muckrakers trailed 3 of these so-called sponsors back to the location where they're taking children. And 3 of the 4 have individuals there that are awaiting charges for aggravated sexual assault. So I just want to make sure that your office is aware that we are reporting on this. And Speaker Mike Johnson is continuing to pass CR bills that are funding NGOs that are literally delivering kidnapped children to known sex offenders. I just want to be crystal clear and make sure that this message gets back to Mike Johnson.
Yes, sir. Of course. I appreciate you calling in. I'm happy to pass it on.
Real muckrakers over on X. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you really, I mean, he just takes the calls, throws it away. He doesn't even,
Of course.
that's,
They don't-
that's,
You don't
that's
care.
just what he just answers. He's just the operator and hangs up. I don't even think he thought about it twice or anything. That's disgusting.
These people don't care. Like literally that, like Anthony Rubin. So how these operations work is the child sits in the NGO and then the child's waiting at that NGO facility while HHS is going through that kid's file, contacting the quote unquote sponsor who is on that name tag. They're supposed to do a background research. They're supposed to be going to the house to do home visits. None of it's done. They have 21-year-old employees that dropped out of high school and have a GED sitting in one of these facilities at a makeshift table. They don't even have like cubicles. They have literally pop-up, fold-up tables that you'd play beer pong on in high school. And all the staff members are sitting there interviewing children, and they're using Google Earth to look up this address and go, oh yeah, that looks like a good house. That could be a kid. A kid could go there. That's best case is that they actually get a Google Earth. We have had whistleblowers come forward and give us addresses, a list of 8,000 addresses where they had already authorized the delivery of a child to. And we're pulling up some of these addresses, and some of them are strip clubs, strip
Kidding me.
clubs. So HHS approved the delivery of a child, an unaccompanied. These are the most vulnerable children in the world. 80% who have been raped brutally on their way to America are now getting handed over and delivered to an address that's a strip club. A simple Google search would have prevented that. That is how broken the system is and how many children we are moving. And think about the DMV. Think about our government trying to issue 400,000
So
driver
really,
licenses.
so really the cartels are running everything now.
Everything. Because that's what I was showing you in this presentation. Let me share this one more time with you guys so you guys can see what I'm saying here. How this entire operation, now you have enough of the meat and potatoes for me to go back to this first slide and show you guys, right? So now all the cartels have to do is bring the child to the border and just hand him over to the border patrol with a number on his shirt. And eventually that child is going to get delivered to a buyer in America. So now you, and this is the most dangerous. So when you talk about human and child trafficking, the most dangerous parts of that journey for the actual trafficker are bringing the child, bringing the merchandise across the border. That's the second most dangerous part. And the first most dangerous part is delivering that merchandise to a buyer in America. We now have Border Patrol agents, which have become the mules, and we have HHS and these NGOs that are going to deliver that child to the buyer.
Once this child gets to the buyer, that's where everything's lost.
So after, based off of normal statistics, when you talk about normal human trafficking and child trafficking, once a child makes it across our border and is handed over to a buyer in America, there is a less than a 1% chance that that child will ever be found alive again. With this situation, those odds may be a little bit better because we actually have what could be an address of where that child was last delivered. Now, they're supposed to be doing follow-ups, right? CPS would go do home visits and verify that the kid's there, proof of life, talk to the kid, interview the parents. This system, there is one phone call that is made in the first 30 days after that child's been delivered. And they call and say, hey, Nino, is Johnny still there and doing good? You go, yep, Johnny's doing good. All right, thanks, Nino. Click. No talking to the child. That's considered a found child. So when I say there's 325,000 missing, they've made a phone call and nobody answered. Or the person that answered said, oh, Johnny? Oh, yeah, this guy Nino paid me $500. I answered a Facebook ad. He asked if I could pick up his kid from the airport, and he paid me $5. So I picked up that kid. I dropped him. I actually met him at McDonald's. That was the last time I seen the kid. It's not illegal for the person that he didn't know.
Dude, this is so much bigger than people know.
It's
the
insane.
levels of this. The levels of this.
It's a fucking well-oiled machine.
And we're all paying tax. We're all paying into it to keep it running.
Yes. And people are more worried about getting their fucking photo taken with Speaker Mike Johnson when they see him at CPAC or they see these politicians. They're more worried about maybe Matt Gaetz will retweet one of my tweets. So when I see him in public, I'm going to shake his hand and tell him what a great job he's doing. No, you guys, our government, both sides have funded this entire operation. People can't cover 250 a day, a day. Imagine 250 Amber Alerts. That means every hour you're awake, you get roughly 11 Amber Alerts. That's how many kids vanish. And nobody's looking for them. Nobody's talking about them. When I say that this documentary, #Trafficked, was a silver bullet for the Trump administration, there's enough crimes in this documentary to take down this entire administration. Because once you take, you know how rats are. Once you take down one of them, you start squeezing one of them, he's gonna squeal like a pig. So I have enough crimes here to take down at the very least Mayorkas, Xavier Becerra, and Robin Mercos.
How many podcasts are you doing right now? I don't understand why you're not getting more exposure.
Because, well, it's like it's hard to say, and I don't want to call anybody out here, but there's some people in this movement or this industry that are telling people not to interview us and not to talk about this, because I'll tell you after the show, but it's pretty shitty. So there's that part. The part that we just came into, we were going to go on YouTube, and we were like, we spent 5 minutes trying to figure out how do we even talk about this so it's YouTube appropriate. So anybody outside of that's not on X or not on Rumble, Burley has never been exposed to this whatsoever. We got on one interview on OAN. Redacted has been an absolute godsend. If it wasn't for Redacted, I don't even know if you would have heard.
Gotten on some stuff, but we haven't got a big one on Alex Jones yet. We haven't got Tucker hasn't reached out to us. You would think that the Rogans, the Tuckers, everybody would want to be a part of this. And then part of it's behind a paywall. So I've realized that, I have a partner in this one, and, I funded this all in my own pocket. So we put a lot of money into making this film. I'm hoping to at the very least, get my money back out of it. I'd be happy. But if we make some money, it'll fund the next one. But so I went out on my own. I have a partner in this documentary. The next one, I've just already funded it. I've already filmed it. I'm actually writing and editing it right now. It's going to cost me about $25,000. But that one, I'm just going to give out for free. It's going to be very similar to Trafficked, but it's going to be more so focused on exactly what we talked about here, the government funding aspect of it, how it all puts together. And I'm going to put this one out hopefully by December 1st. And that one's going to be free. So this one should be the one that blows this wide open. But that's part of the problem. This is so scary. It's so evil. It's like staring at evil. It's unbelievable when you understand that, it's not just these smugglers or thugs or coyotes that are bringing these kids over. It's actually our actual fucking government doing all of this.
that's like, who do you turn to, man? I mean, what? There's to me, and we're all paying into it. That's the thing. We're all part of it. We're all really part of it. And once you know this, what do you do? Stop paying our taxes? I mean, this is so monstrous and so big. It's just like I think a lot of people just feel like, well, what can I do? What can I do? I know what I can do. I can put this on my show, but this is so monstrous and so huge that you know it seems like everybody's involved. Everybody.
Everybody. You have to it starts with awakening, right? The only time politicians seem to ever do a gosh damn thing is when they are so publicly humiliated that they are forced to. We did it with Greg Abbott in these cities. Operation Burning Edge went down there and exposed that 35-mile city where Greg Abbott was saying that he didn't know anything about it and blah 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 blah. And then once we started digging into it, we realized that the people that were funding that were also donating to Abbott's campaign, like millions of dollars, and then he was forced to shut it down, right? So if we make this such a big issue, and it should be the number one issue. This is the biggest story of our lifetime. These are hundreds of thousands of children. The historians will write volumes about this. Like, I mean, every one of these kids is pretty much his story is documentary worthy, right? Like his life story of what he's been done through and what he's been put through is a story in itself. And there's 430,000 of these children. That's just what we know about. Just what we know about. Like, Americans are going to get
I heard this is made. I mean, if you just look at like The Sound of Freedom, that movie was just touching upon this, but how hard it was to get that movie out and how they blocked it and censored it. You got to look at like people like Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel as true heroes. I know the behind the scenes workings of that movie because Jim Caviezel is a very personal friend of mine. And I knew all the stuff that was happening behind the scenes of that movie, how hard it was to get that movie out.
They benched it for 5 fucking years.
Yeah, but then we had
years.
Jim used me and a lot of the patriots that I know to go through the back door and go on podcasts and then do a pay it forward deal to where it took off and for the 3 years that he was going on different people's podcasts, it took off on its own. It created its own fire. And then we did a pay it forward, and then it just launched. And I was the one that went and put this out at I introduced it at the Reawaken Festival. I did it as a personal favor with Jim.
No shit. I was just filming with Tim Ballard last weekend in Mexico. The kids from Sound of Freedom are actually running from the cartels right now, and now they're 24, and they've rescued a little girl. So they're actually fleeing because a bunch of lawfare was used against Tim, and they tried to basically take Tim out. So the attorneys that are going after Tim leaked all of the source information from that investigation because of COVID. It was still ongoing. So the cartels didn't know their names, and the attorneys released the names in the public. So the cartels were trying to kill these people because they didn't want to get sentenced, basically. So they fleeing. We're coming through Mexico, and we met them in Mexico, and they actually claimed asylum and came across the border. But it was pretty cool. And like you said, like that operation in Sound of Freedom, right, was probably a 6 month to a year operation of going undercover, meeting the sources, building up the intel, the whole thing to rescue the 50 or 100 kids, which was huge. The largest operation that I've ever found of rescued children, I just started looking into it, so maybe I'm off, but it looks like about 200. So we're talking about like big, large scale operations where the FBI is involved, our government's involved, and they're going to rescue a couple hundred kids, which takes years and money and resources.
It's the same as like the Border Patrol, as the cartels sacrificing one shipment of drugs and then letting another 200 get through.
Yes,
they always do the one to make the people happy, to make the taxpayers feel like their money's accounted for something, like they're doing something. It keeps people quiet. That's what that is. That's all that is.
What that is. That's it. So think about that. So all that goes into rescue those 200. So then they can get the data boys and the photo ops.
Yeah, and then that goes on the media. They all take pictures, and then all millions of kids are going unaccounted for.
Yeah, 200. Just think about that. So like all of that work goes into one operation to save, say, 200 kids and shut down an actual network that's trafficking them, which is more important than actually saving the 200 that are currently there. It's taking out that network. But that's all that work to stop 200 or save 200 kids. Every day, 250 right now in America are just vanishing. It's like if you want to take down and save children, there is no bigger ROI than this Leviathan right here. That is HHS and ORR. I mean, it's like just today. So there's roughly 63,000 to put this into perspective. Right now, best case, best numbers, 63,000 of that 438,000 are actually in NGO facilities today, waiting to get for HHS to go, yep, ship Johnny to Nino, or ship Johnny here, or take Johnny there. Where are the men at, man? Like you, why aren't there more people like you that are, you know, your reaction is the reaction I would expect every American to have. I feel like it's just because they haven't seen this fucking film. And even when they watch mine, I didn't understand everything that I understand now and have all of these pieces. So like now the more that I do, the more people I interview, the more whistleblowers that are coming forward, I'm really now painting a completely almost different picture than I did in Trafficked. So this next one, I hopefully will be the one that's just like nail in the coffin. It's going to be free. They won't be able to silence it.
I remember working for a real rehabilitation center in Canutillo. This was like when I was 21 years old, and my friend said, "Hey man," I was like, "I need a job." You know, I was boxing, and you know, you can come work at this rehabilitation center where it's fostered kids. You know, kids that were getting ready to be fostered out, and a lot of them would go to a foster family and then go back to this rehabilitation center and then be sent off wherever. It was just like a hub, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is before I knew anything. And I remember I'd go there and these kids would literally, one kid there I remember tried to kill his foster parents, and I always thought to myself, like, what? Like, why did he try to kill them? Now it all makes sense to me now. Probably because they were raping him. Probably because they were doing heinous things to him. And then there's other kids there. They were all sexualized. They were all having sex in the bathrooms with each other, boys on boys. And I mean, I'm talking. I mean, I worked there for probably, gosh, I want to say 3 weeks, and then I quit because I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, but I didn't understand the severity of the problem. I didn't understand like what you disclosed now. How would I know that at 21 back then? You know, you know, 24 or 5 years ago. How would I know any of this? I just thought they were just messed up kids. I was just like, dude, I can't be around this anymore. But now it all makes sense. It was all part of the funneling. And that's what they were being held there and then funneled out. And every kid, bro, every kid that came through that door was messed up. I'm talking severely messed up and sexualized.
Hypersexualized.
Hypersexualized to where they were all having sex with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was and I've never seen anything like it. I mean, dude, it was to the point where you give them just 5 minutes alone, they're gonna go off and start going to the bathroom and doing something. I mean, it was like that.
That's how groomed these children have been from the situations and environments. I just learned about this last weekend, but you're describing exactly it, how these children are groomed, right? So you take a 10-year-old that's just starting puberty, or 11 now with all the hormones and everything. I mean, kids in America are the average age of puberty starting is like 10. So at 10, they're becoming super, like their hormones.
You think that's from the vaccines or the chemicals in the food or all the above?
I think it's all of the above. I think the vaccines play a little bit of a role, but I think it has a lot to do with the chemicals that they're putting in our food, a lot. And so you get these hypersexualized kids. Well, once the trafficker has the kid, right, they don't have to rape them into submission right off the bat. They put them in a room and they put porn on. And they put a bunch of toys. So as the kid's playing nonchalantly, there's always porn on the TV. So they're constantly seeing it, right? And what you're doing is you're just grooming them. You're just getting them to think that this is normal and this is how life is. And eventually, right, the kid becomes sexualized himself. And then that's how the grooming process starts. So
and then that kid does this to other, then he becomes
then you put two kids in a room and now you just let them have their way, right? You don't have to force these children to perform sex. This was an operation that Tim rescued. Children were coming across the border, and this guy would go into Mexico and he'd pick up children. And he had done this multiple times because they had his passport and his travel records. And obviously when they raided his house, they found all the evidence of all the other kids. But he was coming across from Mexico with a girl. And one of the border patrol agents said that there was something with his carotid artery on his neck was just pulsating. And he gave him a weird vibe. So he sent him up to the search line. And when they raided his car, they found the little girl in the back, right? So this is why when it's so important to close our border, because without that border, right, your checkpoint there should be one of the last fail safes that we have to rescue these children. And if your border is wide open and you're not properly searching the vehicles that are coming across it or doing the due diligence, you're never going to put a dent in this. So I asked Tim, I said, what would be the odds of, like, if I gave you a whole task force, whatever, 500,000 men to go rescue all these children, and you currently rescued every child in America today. But if we left that border wide open, would it make a difference? He said, absolutely not. I could rescue 500 today, and there'd be another 500,000 coming across that open border tomorrow because the demand is still here for them. So until you take out that demand and you shut down the ports and force all of that traffic to drive through that border, the only reason that they saved or found out that that man was trafficking those children was because that one Border Patrol agent at that border, at that point of entry, because it was so easy for him to bring these children across. He said, oh, I'll just go through the ports. He's done it a million times, never been stopped, never been searched. This one agent caught him that one time that led to them discovering this network where you just take these children and he put them into a room. They had PlayStation, they had video games, they had everything that they wanted. The kids weren't like getting like viciously abused there, but he was grooming them, right? He was grooming them until they got to a point where then he could sexualize them.
Man, this is sick. It's like, where's God in all this, man? I don't even, when I hear stuff like this, I don't even know what. I'm sure my audience feels helpless too. I don't even know what you do. Like you.
I'll leave you with some motivation on that one. I got a perfect answer for that. So Deborah White was the HHS whistleblower in our documentary, and she was the one that went to the she opened the Pomona Fairgrounds, which is the first HHS intake facility for these unaccompanied children. And she was brought there to kind of pioneer and put in processes. So she works at other government agencies. They put out like an all-call bulletin. Anybody that wants to come into a temporary assignment can leave their agency, come here, work for us. And then when you return back, you get topped out in pay scale and you get to pick wherever you want to go. That's how these government pay scales work. So a bunch of people from all these other organizations come in, and her job was to just make processes like, how are we going to check these children and what questions are we going to ask them? All the stuff that you need to have to kind of turn this into like a well-oiled machine. She thought she was going there to help children and reunite these kids with their parents, but that wasn't the case. So she's in the interview process where they do an initial intake, and her job was to create what she called digging deeper questions. And they are designed to talk to a child, ask him kind of the same thing multiple times to try to see if his answers stay the same. You know, like one of them is, do you happen to owe anybody money that brought you over here? If you're in debt to somebody, it's chances are it's the cartel, and it's very easy to understand, okay, we need to give this kid a little bit more attention because he's being trafficked in by the cartels, or he's been raped or assaulted, or whatever the case. And she does the intake question. One of the first couple of questions is, your sexual preference. And he said gay. So by the end of the interview, Mateo is his name, and he started to open up to Deb. And at the end of the interview, he goes, hey, Deb, can I change one of my questions? She said, absolutely, Mateo, what is it? And he goes, I told you I was gay, but I'm not really sure. I mean, I look at men, but my dad's been selling me to men for money since I was 7. So I don't know if I'm actually gay, but I do look at men. She goes, oh, that's okay. And he goes, what really makes me mad is the coyote that brought me over here that my dad sold me to, told me that he was going to pay me to have sex with me. And I let him have sex with me all the way up to the border. And then when I got out of his car, he basically told me to get out of his car and he wasn't going to pay me. And she goes, it was so heartbreaking watching this kid, this little 12-year-old boy go, yeah, I was raped all day long. That's not what bothered me. The only thing that bothered me was the fact that he didn't pay me for raping him. She goes, and that's when I broke. I had to go into the bathroom. She goes, and we're in this facility where the kids can hear you. So she's like, I'm in the bathroom and I'm got my head in my sleeve and I'm literally sobbing and I'm pounding my fist in the wall and I'm yelling at God and I'm hitting the wall and I'm going, God, where are you? God, where are you? God, where are you? And then all of a sudden I hear this voice and he goes, I sent you. Right? We're here. We're having this conversation. Where is God? He's right here. He's in each and every one of us. And now we're on this mission. Now you're on this mission with me, right? And once you see this, you can't unsee it. And God brought our past across right here at this exact point in time for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but I know that I'm not a human trafficker expert. I'm a fucking podcaster who invests in Bitcoin and keeps his wealth in Bitcoin and only wants to talk about Bitcoin. And it got sucked into this fucking political world. And as soon as they get sucked in, this child thing, I mean, I was the first one to go down there and drone these camps. I mean, it's like God has me on a mission, and my mission is just to get enough exposure about these child camps for somebody to do a gosh damn thing about it. If it revolves, 10,000 Hell's Angels getting on fucking bikes with me, and we're going down to these fucking camps, and we're going to demand that these camps get shut down one way or another, then we fucking do it. But I don't think we're there yet. I think we still have opportunities to talk about this and do this in a peaceful way. But under no circumstances do we allow our government to traffic children, period. That's full stop. That has to end. However we end it, I'm not sure, but I don't think it can be done without the executive branch. So most importantly is getting Trump in that White House. And then from there, this thing should come down like a house of cards. And every single person out there, right? These employees who say they're just doing their job, these Border Patrol agents who are
Do my
just doing
job.
their job. No, you're not fucking doing your job. You are trafficking children. And at this point, you can't fucking deny it. I'm going to show you guys in this next documentary videos from Anthony Aguero where this child's like 10 years old and she's abandoned at the border. And Anthony, like, she was walking the wrong direction. And Anthony found her and like walked her to Border Patrol. And the Border Patrol agents were like upset that he did that. Like, he's bringing a trafficked child to you. And these agents, it was almost like he fucked up their buy because they had a group going one way as a distraction.
Wow.
They were in the middle. The child was going the other way. And he caught that child and brought the child back to them. And they were upset about that. It's almost like, right, that these Border Patrol agents know exactly what's going on. But either way, they still take that child. They still put him into a system knowing that that child is going to be delivered to an unvetted random fucking sponsor.
There's guilty as
100%.
anybody.
100%.
Ryan, where do people find you, man? Ryan Matta, everybody. This has been very revealing. Where do people find you? Where can people reach you, man? Where can they
So on
learn?
Rumble, I do a show every day on LFA TV. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time called
And it's
Matta
about
Effect.
specifically this.
All this. It's all I do is politics and corruption and trafficking border are my main topics, but I'll go down the conspiracy rabbit holes all day long. So if you guys got some conspiracies you guys want to look into, come over and join me on X. You can follow me on X at Ryan Matta Media. I'm very active on X. My DMs are always open. If you're a whistleblower, if you work at one of these facilities, you want to come forward, I can keep your identity secret, hidden. I've never allowed, not one of my sources has ever been turned out or made public. So you guys have information you guys want to get out. I understand that you don't want to put your face behind it. And I know I've been there and I see what they do to the people that come out. So I'm not holding anything against you, but you need to speak up if you're seeing something, and that's the most important. So X, Rumble, those are my two main platforms.
X and Rumble.
Oh, you
All
guys go to our
right,
website too. This is treason.com and purchase our documentary. This is treason.com. And if you use promo code, let's do a special one for Nino right now. We'll do Nino 30. So the first 10 people that are watching this will get 30% off. And then after that, it'll be Nino 15. And then you can get 15% off for your audience too, Nino.
Awesome, man. Thank you. So this is treason.com. Get over there, folks, and use code Nino. I appreciate this. Thanks, Ryan. You're doing God's work, man.
Man, hopefully, like come back on, man, and we got our next documentary that's launching in 6 days too on the invasion. So maybe we come back on and talk about that.
Absolutely, and you should be going on a lot more podcasts. I don't understand how this is just going by everybody. This makes me sick.
Well, let me know anybody that you can get us on. My partner is even better to interview than I am. If you thought this was a good interview, you should talk to my partner. He was Border Patrol agent for 24 years, so he lived this shit. And he's like, when you hear him talk about it, he's like, never, ever in 24 years did I ever release one person on the transnational watch list. He goes, we've released like 40,000. Like he'll blow your mind with the shit that he talks about. So anytime you guys want to get us
Get him on the show.
we'll be here.
Let's talk to him. I'd like to both you guys at the same time. That'll work too.
Great, brother. Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right, my man. I like.
Okay, let's stop share. And I want to go back to, let's see. Let's go back to where we were. Let me, hold on 1 second here. Okay, so I have to share again. And then, well, I just want to summarize a couple things. So it's thisistreason.com, Ryan Matta Media at gmail.com. And the book was invaded by J.J. Carroll, Carrello. So Next Level Production, What is Treason? Trafficked, What is Treason? Invasion, and Operation Amber Alert. All right, and then let me see. All right, so we kind of went over that, and I just want to find David Nino's stuff again. Let me see. Let me get to his slides. Okay, so remember to check out his website, www.ninoscorner.tv. His book, When the Lights Go Out from Survivor to Champion. He's on pretty much all the social medias, but like Rumble and Spotify. I know he's on Nino's Corner. X, he's on Nino Boxer. YouTube, David Nino Rodriguez. And so this is pretty much what we checked out today, though. 3 videos by David Nino Rodriguez, his original Peterwood video, Cathy O'Brien and Lynne Haggerman, 2 more heroes, and then another hero, Ryan Matta. So David, keep up the great work and keep interviewing good people. So follow David and on Nino's Corner.tv, follow him on YouTube, and you can follow him on social media. But he does a lot of good interviews, and he really just is trying to get at the truth no matter what, you know. So he follows his heart, and good things happen. So keep up the good work on that. And let's stop share. And so the next podcast will be on Ryan Matta and his latest documentary on trafficking. So have a good day and see you next time. If you want to, let me do one more thing because I don't think I did this last time. But if you go to, I can go to the beginning or to the end. Let me go do both just for the heck of it on this presentation. Okay, so we've been looking at human trafficking in the 21st century. And this was a presentation I had made for the Unity Tour.us with Lewis Herms. Also did an interview with Laura Worley that the sound got messed up, so it kind of got lost. So hopefully we'll do another one, but I did a review on it. I think it's my second video. I just started a website, insights21.com. Dr. Michael J. Frederick LLC, and then the email is mjfinsights21@gmail.com. And I don't think I did this, so let me look at this again. So let me screen share one more time, and I just got to find the right one. I don't see it there. All right, let me try this. Let me go to the very end on here. All right, and there's another way of looking at it. So I'm trying to go to the website, but it's insights21.com, which is easy to remember. I did have my name. I did want to have just michaeljfrederick.com, but it was taken, so I did drmichaeljfrederick.com. And then I'm doing YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and Spotify. I just learned Spotify, and then we talked about the Gmail, mjfinsights21@gmail.com. The strongest people make time to help others, even if they're struggling with their own problems. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And if society will not protect the children, then God will not protect you. Okay, so let me see if I can do this. All right, I'm gonna see if I can go to my website. Hopefully this will work. All right, and I'm just gonna go through this real quickly. All right, so here's the home. Just if you go to my website Insights21, just click on home and then about us, podcast, research, connections, news and events, contact us, and donations. Okay, so home, it just kind of describes the podcast and your voice matters. And the mission, which is really, for me, I'm an educator. So my mission is AESSA, advocating for children and global change. So it's really awareness, education, solutions, service, and advocacy. Okay, so HT is human trafficking, or a lot of times I'll say modern slavery. Okay, so I think that one of the best things you can do is just talk about it. And then on the bottom, those are all the links that I have. I'm still learning things, like I'm still connecting Spotify to my website. So hopefully we can get that done this week. But that's the last thing I'm working on. But we have links to Facebook, LinkedIn, Spotify, True Social, Rumble, Substack. I need to update that. So I want to, I really want to do a Substack after every interview. So that's something I'm working on. Instagram, BitChute, Buy Me a Coffee, Twitter, my Gmail, and then YouTube. So when you buy me a coffee, for example, little donations make a big difference. So if you have, like, let's say you have 100 listeners and they donate $5 each, that's a lot of money for a podcaster. So you can really, the donations can be, between small, medium, and large. But it all adds up because there are costs to, like, I think it costs me $40 a month to run the Insights 21, and then there's other costs. But anyhow, so that's kind of a look at that. Let me see, there's something else. All right. You can also look at about us. I'll just do these briefly. I may do a podcast on and go in depth in here, but it just basically tells about me and my background. I grew up in St. Louis. My college background, I worked for my dad for a while. He was a plumbing contractor. I worked for him for about 10 years, actually. I've taught at 22 colleges, lived in 11 states, has my philosophy of education. So if you have to write one of those, then you got a sample there. I talk about Insights 21, the Substack, and really it's, if you want to learn truth, you really just need three things. You need access to a computer, you need to be able to read, have an open, curious mind, and then use critical thinking to discern the truth. Okay, so it's not, not really that hard, but like my thing as a professor is teach critical thinking. So do research, develop critical thinking skills, discern the truth, and pursue knowledge and attain wisdom in the 21st century. Okay, so in martial arts, we call it a beginner's mind. So always be learning and improving. Kaizen is good change, constant continuous improvement, and be a lifelong learner. So I'm definitely a lifelong learner. Improve 1% every day. Okay, so I'm just starting podcasts. This is my fourth one. So I want to improve 1% every time I do a podcast. So after I do 100 podcasts, I'll be a lot better than my first one. Number two, question everything and research everything. That does include everything. I got that quote from David Icke. Ask the question, who benefits? So that's Q Bono. Know who benefits the most from this happening and who benefits from you thinking a certain way. So I got that from David Wilcock. Follow the money. So whenever you're doing an investigation, follow the money. Research the names, people, families, wealthy organizations, and corporations. So when you're studying human trafficking, you have to look at the richest families in the world because they're the ones that run the trafficking networks, and they also use the children. So they're big into trafficking, from supply and demand side. And then make a big difference in your world. Think globally and act locally. Okay, so community service, to others, Jesus agape love, the law of one, basically give more than you get. Even if it's 51%, 49, then you're good. The St. Francis way of service. All right, let me see just a little bit more. On the third one, I have podcasts. So right now I have three. I'm going to put this one up as soon as I stop. Research. Okay, so I'm constantly adding to that, but topics to investigate. I would also add child abuse, but child abuse, human trafficking, MK Ultra, ritual abuse, and satanic ritual abuse. There's a lot of individuals to follow. So we've talked about Cathy O'Brien, Fiona Barnett, Laura Worley, Anna K. Lucas. We're going to look at David Schroeder, Teal Swan, Arizona Wilder, Jeanette Archer, Lisa Meister. We talked about Jesse Zaboter, Liz Crokin, Jocko Boyan. So there's a lot of good people to follow. So I'll continue to, expose that. And then here's kind of notes from my different presentations. Okay, and I was looking at it, and it's actually pretty good to start. Can definitely be better. Connections, I have like Liz Crokin's website, lizcrokin.com, Jocko Boyan's website, jockoboyansministries.com. and I'm posting other things as I read books. Like I'm reading 22 Faces right now by Judy Byington. Okay, so we're going on to our break right now, so I'm gonna read that. Connect with Rachel Vaughn, for example. Okay, so it has connections to different people. The ones that I know, I'm constantly learning about it. News and events. Okay, so I have Anna K. Lucas there in her website, annaklucas.com. Amanda Buys and her husband Rolly Buys, canonministries.com. So she's really good with prayers and things like that. And we talked about 50 Voices of Ritual Abuse, the Mel K Show. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Alvin Toffler. The strongest people make time to help others, even if they're struggling with their own problems. So we got that. Lewis Monroe, deepstatemappingproject.com. Kibby Linga, she was on YouTube. She Got Away podcast, so I'm not really sure if she's on there still, but she's a Catholic SRA survivor from Wisconsin. So she came out, so she's another hero. I think anybody who talks about this is a hero. So I think that's pretty awesome. And then I just have a contact page. If you want to contact me, I guess email is the best. That's actually my third email because I have a personal email. I have a school email, and then I have an email for this website. So far I've only got emails from my web designer, which is fine. And then I just want to go to donations again. So there's another. So you can donate through Buy Me a Coffee. I think it's a $5 minimum on that, or donate whatever amount. And I actually use that off of Jesse Saboter's donation page because I thought it was good. And on the first page I have a picture of heaven, and then here's a picture of hell. And originally this was AI generated, but I thought it was a little too intense, so I put it in the very back. But really, this is good versus evil, and it is, God versus Satan and angels versus demons. So this is a picture of Saint Michael, the archangel, fighting demons in hell. Okay, so luckily we're not there, but support my mission. Your generous contributions play a crucial role in supporting my cause, enabling me to continue my vital work and raising awareness and empowering lives. By donations, you actively contribute to the positive impact I strive to create, foster a community dedicated to enlightenment, understanding, and transformational change. So let's go back to home because I want to show you heaven again. Okay, so there's the banner, the one I have behind me. I'll show you in a second, but that's what the web designer came up with. And I've actually worked with 2 or 3 people on this, but I like the Insights 21 podcast logo. It has question, research, everything, and it has a shield and a sword, and then it has angel wings, and then it has a picture of heaven and a big castle, I guess, where God resides, and angels flying all over the place. And I think that's pretty cool. So true warriors confront the evils in society that most people refuse to even admit exists. So the truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Just let it loose and it's going to defend itself. We can ignore reality, but we cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. Okay, so, what the people we covered today on this podcast are the true warriors. Okay, so David Nino Rodriguez, Cathy O'Brien, Lynne Haggerman, and Ryan Matta. They're all the warriors. Okay, and that kind of gets us closer to heaven. So there's the Insights 21 banner. Okay, that I put up behind me. Okay, but that's all for now. I'm gonna end the show and post this. So have a good day, and keep researching the topics, and we'll see you next time.